You're listening to the Motorbike Racing Show. I'm Greg Haines. It's Thursday, the 11th of January, 2024. Happy New Year and a happy new podcast as well, hopefully, and I really would like you to be part of it. All the opinions, all the news and all the results from MotoGP, British Superbikes and World Superbikes, as well as anything else we think of across the course of every Thursday in 2024. Please get in touch with your questions, observations and any other random thoughts, and I'll read them out and answer them hopefully on the show. Greg Haines TV on X, formerly known as Twitter and Instagram, and also email talkingawaypodcast@gmail.com. Well, there's a lot to get through. Let's kick things off then with what's happening in the UK at the moment, and there's a lot going on. OMG Racing have hinted at their new colour scheme for 2024 with a new look blue livery set to be launched at Autosport International at the Birmingham NEC over the next few days. This year they retain their rider lineup of Ryan Vickers and 2023 third place finisher Kyle Ryde. It's been confirmed that the newly released Triumph Daytona 660 is to race in BSB's equally new British Superbikes Championship. That confirmation was posted on X, formerly known as Twitter, by the series director Stuart Higgs. Staying on the subject of Triumph, the British manufacturer has been awarded the prestigious Torrens Trophy for its work in engine supply to the Moto2 World Championship from 2019 onwards. The award was presented at the Royal Automobile Club in London on Tuesday night. Also winning there was Steve Parish with a Lifetime Achievement Award, having now officially announced his retirement from racing. He'll no longer be competing at Goodwood. Famously a great friend of Barry Sheene, Stavros, as he's known, was a multiple champion in truck racing, but prior to that won the British Shell 500 titles back-to-back in 1979 and 80, the British Superbike title the following year in 1981, and went on to manage the Loctite Yamaha team. Steve has since become a famous voice as a television commentator. Remaining on British shores, Silverstone Circuit has cancelled all motorbike track days this year. Silverstone Managing Director Stuart Pringle told Motorcycle News, "We're currently reviewing the bike track day offering and will be relaunching within the next year. We haven't taken this decision lightly, as we know that there will be disappointment for some of our customers. However, we were finding that our existing bike track days products was not proving as popular as we needed them to be, so we're going to take some time to look at the needs of our customers, researching the options, and then we'll be bringing back track action for our two-wheel customers." Silverstone is also off the BSB calendar this year, meaning the circuit's only two-wheel action in 2024 will be MotoGP at the start of August. So a lot going on then, of that there is no doubt. We're joined now by a friend of mine, Eurosport commentary colleague and the 1993 British Superbike champion, as it now would be, James Whitham. How are you doing, James? Happy New Year.
Yeah, Happy New Year, Greg. Are you wintering well, my son?
I think I am. Yeah, I'm trying to eat more salads and trying to keep a bit healthier, get a bit of weight down. How about you?
Yeah, good. I've had a good winter. Cold and wet up north, I think, as it has been a lot of places, but still managed to get out on the trials bike, doing a bit of enduro, and yeah, job's a dream, really.
Yeah, and that's great news about Steve Parish as well, isn't it? I know Steve's a good mate of yours, and it's really nice to see him get that Lifetime Achievement Award.
It is, and because he is now predominantly known as a commentator or as an ex-friend of the late, great Barry Sheene, you forget just how good of a peddler he was in his own right. He was brilliant. And even into his dotage, like within the last few years, I've followed him at Goodwood, and he could still peddle on, could the boy. And multiple European champion in trucks, remember.
And what's all that, James, about Silverstone and not running track days? Apparently they're not running the Ducati track days either. That's a bit of a shocker to me. Did you see that coming?
No, I didn't see it coming. However, I'm in the track day business myself, and times are a little bit hard, I think, now. I think disposable income has been reduced a little bit for most people, and if it's difficult to tell your partner that you're doing 6 or 7 track days in a year if you can't afford to take the family on holiday. So yeah. I get it. And I get why they're doing it. Big overheads at Silverstone, and they can't afford to do a track day if there's only 15 people on it. So, yeah, I get it.
Right, in terms of BSB, you're going to be commentating again when all that gets going. There's so much to talk about. Navarra, of course, is a new venue in Spain. That's going to be a different feel, isn't it, to start at Navarra?
Yeah, it's a brilliant circuit, though, and an absolutely spectacular part of the world. It's right up in the Picos. So north of Barcelona, well, you know all this anyway because you live there, but north of Barcelona, and I guess your nearest big town would be sort of Santander or Bilbao, maybe.
Yeah, and Pamplona's not too far either.
That's it, and it's just a lovely part of the world, quite hilly. I've done a little bit of touring and actually a little bit of enduro riding up in the Picos in the past, and it's a beautiful part of the world. Nice people, nice countryside, and the circuit's really good as well. It's not a big wide open circuit. This isn't Thruxton. This is a predominantly second and third gear track. Quite challenging physically. It's hard work. It's there's a lot of turns, and I think it'll go down really well. It's really nice to be out to somewhere that isn't Britain in cold April and have that kind of that spring British damp, wet, cold kind of feel to it in the garage. However, I think for a lot of people it's a bit of a schlep out there, but I think it'll work. I think it's good. Not every class is doing it. I think it'll go down quite well.
Yeah, quite bumpy as well. Quite a lot of first gear corners, aren't there? I remember we had a World Superbike round there in 2021. Scott Redding won 2, Top Rack won 1.
It's mostly, first, second. If you're on a big bike, it can be first, second. I think on a lot of BSB stuff, I think people will be running second, third gear for a lot of the corners. It's a good place. I quite like it. Spain's a weird place. They've got a lot of circuits tucked away. I've raced several places in Spain, or let's say ridden several places in Spain that are fit to have an international or certainly national race. But we never see them. I guess Spanish Championship would go there. But yeah, good place.
And finally, wait for now, what do you make of this year? Because we've had the closest season ever, just half a point. It doesn't get any closer between Bridewell and Glen Irwin last year. And then Tommy has left PBM and gone to Honda. Can he do it there with a Honda?
Well, this might have been a little bit of a masterstroke on the part of Tommy, because with the sad loss of Paul Bird, it was always going to be up in there whether the PBM team ran again. I think his daughter Jordan and son Frankie would like to run it. Whether they're going to have the funds to run that, I'm not so sure. But certainly it was going to be an unknown. And I think Tommy went early, knowing that other teams were leaving. McCann's have gone. I mean, they still have a presence in the championship with Martrain. But actually, as a team, there's 2 bikes gone. That was the McCann's team. So it's a year when if you didn't go early, the seats were going to be taken. It's like a little bit of a musical chairs job where there's always going to be somebody left standing at the end without a saddle. So I think Tommy did a good thing. I think the Honda is better than it's been made look for a lot of reasons. I really like the way that Andy Irwin rides, but he's been injured most of the year, so he hasn't ridden to his best. And I think I don't think it's a bad move for Tommy. It remains to be seen. He was spectacular on the Ducati, very different bike. You're going to have to run more corner speed on the Honda and not rely on the guts of the Ducati. I think the Ducati was really good on the brakes as well compared to most four-cylinders for some reason. But it's going to be interesting to see. Big team Honda this year, running 3 Superbikes with Andy, with Tommy, and with Dino. Remember, Dino's riding full BSB, so three bikes out in BSB for Honda. It remains to be seen whether there's going to be a presence from PBM. Probably not. We hear, and we also hear on the rumour mill. I don't know what you've heard, if you've heard any more than me. I'm a little bit out of touch up north in my little hut. But Glen Irwin may be riding AMA. Have you seen that in Moto America?
No, I didn't know that, actually. I was just going to ask you what's he going to do if PBM don't run. I heard Rory Skinner might run with Philip Neal's team, Taz, but I hadn't heard about Glen Irwin in America.
Yeah, we hear, this is all speculation, hearsay, rumour, and the rest. But we hear that Glen is going to be in America, which is a good option, which would confirm that there's no PBM presence as the team it was. So that's that. O'Halloran is another rider that went early. He jumped ship and went to Kawasaki as of just after Cadwell, real early. So maybe his team was going anyway. You would expect a rider of his talent and front-running pedigree in the championship just about every year he's been in it, to have waited and somebody to come to him. But not a bad move to go for that Kawasaki, in my opinion. I think that bike's pretty good. We know from the way that Jacko made it work towards the end of last year. And they're running Max Cup with O'Halloran, so that's not a bad team. And I do hear they have got parts from the World Championship, and that's going to be a spectacularly good bike this next year. Remains to be seen. For me, the favourites have to be OMG. They're keeping the same riders. They both performed really well last year. Ride finished third and looked like a genuine championship contender. Vickers, if he performs to his best, is definitely going to be a championship contender. Remains to be seen whether he can stay on the thing. I think he can. He's definitely got the speed if he does. So I think for me, they've got to start favourites. Another one that you don't want to forget if you can get to grips with the bike is Christian Iden. Still on the same bike. I do believe it's a different sponsor to Oxford Products, but it's the same Motor Rapido bike. We now trick them lads are when they get the teeth into it. And if Iden can get to grips with it, I have a lot of faith in that kid.
Right, it's fascinating. We'll talk more about it when we get closer to it, but thanks very much for now. We'll get on to the MotoGP news, but don't forget, BSB, everyone, starting in Navarra, northern Spain, on the weekend of the 20th to the 21st of April, where I'll let you get back to your painting or whatever it is you're up to up north.
I'm painting the whole, you'll say on your sellers, lad, you were putting a bit of weight on towards the end of the year.
I'm glad you're honest. It's very true, actually. Thanks very much.
See you later, mate.
Thanks a lot.
Bye-bye.
Dorna, the commercial rights holder for MotoGP, has released a special championship logo to mark its 75th anniversary year. The logo, unsurprisingly featuring a huge number 75, incorporates the faces of many a motorcycling great. The World Championship for motorcycles began in 1949, 1 year before the Formula One World Championship, making MotoGP the oldest motor racing world championship on the planet. Casey Stoner has revealed his disappointment at Valentino Rossi following a clash in 2011. The pair of world champions memorably collided at that year's Spanish Grand Prix, the Italian clattering into the Australian at Jerez Turn 1. Speaking recently with Italy's Moto.it, Stoner said, "At the time I was a little disappointed that Valentino came to apologise with his helmet still on. Mistakes happen, but he was clearly having a tough time with Ducati. The first moment he had to seize back some pride, he took the opportunity, but made a big mistake." And regular viewers will recall that it was on that occasion that Stoner memorably told Rossi in front of television cameras that his ambition outweighed his talent. Jorge Martin has not ruled out the possibility of joining Honda in 2025. Speaking with AS in Spain, last year's championship runner-up to Pecco Bagnaia stated, "I'm in a different position to Luca Marini, who's just gone to Honda, because I'm currently winning and he hasn't been. But if I see that Honda improves and could become a winner again long term, it would be a good option. But right now with the Ducati, I can enjoy it more." Martin, who stays with Ducati's Pramac satellite team this year, added that his absolute target is to race for a factory team in 2025. And double world champion Pecco Bagnaia has said he would never be keen to sign a multi-year deal, the like of which Marc Marquez recently did with Honda, infamously breaking out of a 4-year deal after just 3 seasons. Speaking with Tuttosport in Italy, Bagnaia said, "I wouldn't sign a long 5 or 4-year deal. I saw how that went with Marc Marquez. I prefer fresh motivation and stimulation. The best thing for me is a 2-year contract. My love for Ducati is strong and will remain so, and I like to think it's mutual." Ducati itself has always ruled out long-term contracts, the like of which we've seen not just with Marquez and Honda, but also in Formula One with the likes of Max Verstappen and Red Bull. Like the majority of the current MotoGP grid, Bagnaia's contract with Ducati will expire at the end of this year. Loads to talk about then in MotoGP for this new season. Joined now by colleague and sports reporter at Motorcycle News, Josh Close, who I believe I've just dragged off his static bicycle. Josh, I'm really sorry about that.
No problem, Greg. No problem. Happy to help you.
Happy New Year as well, sir. How's it going on the static bike? Maybe I need to get one of them.
Well, it's the first time in a while, to be honest, Greg, so it's a little hard work, but it's January after all, isn't it?
Yeah, we've got to burn off all the Christmas stuff now. MotoGP, there's so much to talk about, isn't there? First thing, I guess, can Marc Marquez win the first Grand Prix? I think he can. What do you think?
Oh, that's a good question, Greg. I think he absolutely can, given not only his record in Qatar, but Ducati's as well. It's a bike that's hard to beat at Qatar. We saw Dovizioso do it a few times. I think Pecco won recently as well. So it's a great place to start. And I don't think it's going to take Mark long to get used to that bike. We saw in Valencia at the test already. He was inside the top 5 straight away, I think it was, and second best Ducati at the end of the day. And we've all seen that clip of him in the garage, haven't we, after his first run?
If anyone said to me, friends or whatever, Josh, I've always said, I think he's going to be strong at the beginning and then it might be more difficult towards the end because they're not a factory team. However, and the factory team tends to move on, don't they, over the season. However, it didn't really stop people last year, did it? And Jorge Martin was on a satellite bike after all.
He was. I mean, the key difference is, though, that Pramac have the same bike, the same factory kit. So that's the only key difference. But then again, this is Marc Marquez, so he can be a difference maker, as we saw up to a point with Honda.
And then we've got Pedro Acosta making his way up through the ranks, haven't we? Very much, actually, like Marquez did a few years ago. How good is Acosta going to be, do you think, with the equipment he's got?
Hard to say at this stage, because obviously the gas Tech 3 side of things have struggled recently, but he is special. He is, as I say, marked as the next Marc Marquez already. He's got the talent, but most importantly for me, I've spoken to him a couple of times now, he's a character. He's full of energy. He's not afraid to stir things up, if you like. So I think he's going to upset a few people, maybe, get under some people's skin, but in a good way, because he said himself he doesn't want to see people all friendly with each other on screen. The fans don't want that, and he knows that.
Is he friendly in person, but then once the skid lid goes down, it's war sort of thing?
Yeah, I think he could be like that very much. He's going to get stuck in and let them know straight away that he's arrived, so to speak. I think, was it this year, Greg, we saw him Moto2 when he won one of the races. He had the pizza delivery and he went down to Tony Arbolino's garage and gave them a slice of pizza, and they weren't very impressed. And there was Dennis Foggia in his Moto3 title year where he bumped into the back of him during the warm-up when they're doing the practice starts and then waved at him before the race. He's playing mind games already. So can you imagine him and Marquez going at it and mind games? Oh, it's going to be...
Did he put pineapple on the pizza? Is that why they were upset? Because Italians don't like that, do they, generally? From the friends I know I've got, they hate that.
Neither do I. It doesn't belong on the pizza, Greg. Really? Does not.
Oh, come on, Joshua.
Does not belong on the pizza. Oh. But it's going to be interesting. He just needs to be careful not to overdo it and let the hype get to him too much, because he could end up hurting himself a bit like he did in Moto2 the first year. But he's just got I think he's got to manage expectation, take it race by race, and I think it'll come to him pretty good. The KTM is a good bike. He's special, so it could be a good recipe for success.
And then, as we've just heard in the news, pretty much everybody's out of contract, aren't they, at the end of this year? So, I mean, surely Martin's going to be on a factory bike next year, but could you really see him going to Honda, as he said to the Spanish press?
It depends how much that title of factory rider means to you, doesn't it? I guess if Ducati overlook him again for a spot on the red bikes, does he see that as a bit of disrespect, or that he's not seen as highly as he thinks he should be? It's one of them, and it's the problem Ducati have. What if Marc Marquez does great and wants to stay on a Ducati?
Yeah, good point. I suppose Ducati's in a very nice position, aren't they, really, with all these people they've got, all these amazing talents they've got?
Yeah, I mean, they're all race winners now, I believe. All of the 8 Ducati riders. They've all won races. They're all podium chasers. Yeah, it's a nice problem to have, but eventually someone's going to get frustrated and leave. Zarco, when he got offered a 1-year deal, that's why he left. Marini, I guess, similar to Martin in that he dreamt of being a factory rider, and so he's taken the risk with Honda. It depends how much the status of factory rider means, I guess.
Okay, well, we'll keep tabs on it, Josh, over the course of the season. I'm really sorry to have bothered you there and to interrupt your intense winter training program, so I will let you get back to that. But thank you very much, and I'm sorry for that.
I don't know about intense, Greg, but it's no problem at all.
Thanks very much, and I will speak with you soon. Let's get on then to World Superbikes. Anthony Gobert is receiving end-of-life care in Australia. His brothers Aaron and Alex have confirmed on social media. Their statement reading, "It is with sadness that we have to announce that Anthony is currently hospitalised in palliative care and is in the final stages of his life following a short illness. Please be aware that we will provide any available updates in due course." Gobert, who is 48, won 8 World Superbike races, most on Kawasaki machinery, but also one for Ducati, and memorably won his his final on a bimotor at Phillip Island in the year 2000. He's also won 11 Pro Superbike races in America, won Supercross and Superbike Championship races in his native Australia, and achieved 6 top 10 finishes in 500cc Grand Prix World Championship racing between 1997 and 1999. Scott Redding has admitted that new BMW stablemate Toprak Razgatlioglu might be, quote, more talented than I think. The duo both race for the German manufacturer this year, and Redding has told Germany's Speed Week, Toprak has something that distinguishes him from everybody else. Imitating that is very difficult. I've never known anybody ride like him. The BMW is good on the brakes, but if the rear wheel lifts off the ground, it's 50-50 for what will happen when it comes back down again. But maybe Toprak's talent on the brakes is even bigger than I thought, and he somehow gets a grip on it. And if that's the case, maybe he can lead us in a new direction. That helps us. World Superbike Series boss Greg Levier has underlined the fact that numerous rule changes this year have been introduced with the simple desire to bring more teams and riders into the mix. After all, over the past 2 seasons, every single race except just one was won by either Alvaro Bautista, Toprak Razgatlioglu or Jonathan Rea. And Levier has basically said that if a manufacturer can't win, they may pull out of the sport, and eventually others may do the same, as they could then argue that the series is too easy to win with not enough competition. Rule changes for 2024 allow more modifications to engines, a lower fuel allowance, and after years of bickering, a new minimum combined weight for bike and rider, which follows in the footsteps of World Supersport, Supersport 300, Moto2, Moto3 and F1 car racing. Finally, Moto X Racing will be the first team to present its bike and rider for 2024, and that's tomorrow, Friday the 12th of January, in the Italian capital of Rome. They retain Bradley Ray for a second year. BMW's launch will be next, unveiling the M1000RR machines at their Berlin factory on the 17th of January, that's Wednesday next week. Toprak Razgatlioglu joins Michael van der Mark at Shawmure Racing, reunited then with his old Yamaha teammate, while Scott Redding moves to Bonovo alongside Garrett Gerloff. Ducati have also confirmed their launch date for later in January, as Alvaro Bautista and Nicolo Bulega follow tradition by joining the MotoGP team at the famous Madonna de Campanile ski resort in northeast Italy. Loads to look forward to then, and the man we'll be joining the Eurosport commentary box with once again is 2-time world champion of 2004 and 2007, Mr. James Toseland, who's on the road making his way back from that Torrens Trophy event in London to up north. Happy New Year, sir.
Happy New Year, Greg. How are you yourself?
I'm all right, actually. I was just telling James Whitham that I'm trying to eat a few more salads to keep the weight down, and he thought it was absolutely necessary, so that was very honest of him, I thought.
We had too many mince pies, my friend.
They're just too nice, aren't they? I just love Cadbury's chocolate, but anyway, there you go. You're back from America, aren't you now? You've had the wrist operation, so what's that, 8 operations in 12 or 13 years, is it, James? How did it go?
It is, yeah. I went to Austin on the 6th of December, and the operation was on the 8th. So it's nearly 5 weeks now post-op, and just doing some exercises here on the steering wheel as I go driving back to sunny Sheffield. The recovery is going well. I've got some movement back, which is amazing because it's not moved at all for nearly 3 years. So to have something fused and then it's kind of unfused, it's a bit of a weird sensation, and obviously it's a bit painful trying to get some movement back into it. But fingers crossed it will settle this time, and I'll be in a happy place with it.
Oh, that is really good news, James. Really pleased about that. In terms of the Torrens Trophy, you're obviously down there presenting Triumph and Steve Parrish. Did he get emotional, Stavros, by the way? Did he cry?
No, I don't think. I think the only thing that Steve Parrish gets emotional about is his pranks and jokes that he's done when he's absolutely wetting himself, afterwards. So, but no, it was nice because he's had a 50-year career in the motorsport industry, and also it was his final performance at the Goodwood Festival of Speed Riding as well. And I thought it was a bit of a milestone to celebrate. And the Torrens Trophy Committee, they all asked me to just do a bit of an interview with him, because he goes around the tables and interviews everybody else, and they asked me to do that with him. So that was nice, and did a bit of research on him, and finishing in the top 5 of the 500 Grand Prix in 77, obviously the year that Sheen won, and winning a couple of British Superbike championships in the early 80s, and then the European and British Championship Truck championships that he won as well. And he held that for 4 years, can you believe? He was really dominant on 2 wheels and 4 wheels, just like John Surtees, if you remember all those years ago. So he's had a real amazing career in motorsport, and it was nice to kind of give him that recognition.
Now, James, we'll talk more about World Superbikes as we get closer to the season. Obviously, we're pushed for time in today's show, but we've got to talk about Anthony Gobert because he's got to be, surely, so many people say, one of the most naturally talented riders ever. We know he's had his troubles. It's been well documented with some drug and alcohol abuse and other things over the years. What a talent, and just tragic news there coming out of Australia that he's receiving that end-of-life care.
Yeah, it really is. I send all my very, very best to Anthony's family and friends, as always. It's not nice to hear that we're going to lose another huge name in the sport. Obviously, not this time on the circuit itself. It's never easy, no matter how people pass away. And we know that he had troubles with addiction when he was younger. If you've seen the most recent Facebook post of his, you can see it's taken its toll over the years, and it was really difficult to hear that he's on end of life treatments at the minute.
James, you've won multiple titles and races and podiums over the years in Britain and obviously on the world stage. Just how talented was Anthony Gobert? Because so many people say he was right up there.
Well, I was trackside when he won that race on the Remoto in 2000. It was the same weekend, I believe, where Foggy had his accident that retired Carl Fogarty. And, I think, was it 23 seconds he won that race by?
I was checking it earlier. 29 seconds it was over second place.
29 seconds. Yeah. So 29 seconds you win against the best in the world. That was World Superbikes, and arguably in a really strong era, with Colin Edwards and Aaron Slight, I think, was still on the SP1 in 2000, and Hager on the Yamaha, and huge names, and he made them all look a bit silly. And the names I've just reeled off for you, if someone can make those guys look a bit silly on an occasion, just shows you just how much talent he's got.
Yeah, and if I'm not mistaken, because I know he'd be mentioning this if he was listening back to this podcast, I think James Whitham won Supersport on the same day. So, a memorable day there. But James, really looking forward to broadcasting again together this year. All the ingredients are there, aren't they, for World Superbikes this year, with all the things I've just mentioned in the news, but also Andrea Iannone, and there's so many changes this year.
Absolutely. Sam Lowe's as well on the Ducati, brand new team with Mark VDS. Yeah. So we must have at least half a dozen British guys, all on great bikes, all with a chance of finishing on the podium. So for the British interest, it's amazing. But yeah, Toprak on a BMW, Jonathan Ray on a Yamaha, Bautista with 6.5 kilograms strapped to that Ducati to bring him a little bit further back on the straights. It's really lining up to be an epic one.
It most certainly is. Well, we'll speak again very soon, my friend, but have a safe drive back up north, won't you?
Good man, Greg, and good luck with the dieting.
I might need it. Thank you very much.
I want you to look like a little racehorse by the time I see you.
Yeah, very funny. I will get you back for that. And there we are. That was the first motorbike racing show for Thursday, the 11th of January, 2024. I'm sure you've got the idea by now, but we'll be back next Thursday, the 18th of January, with more updates. Now, in the meantime, I will be at the BMW World Superbike launch in Berlin next week. So check out social media, Greg Haines TV on Instagram and also on X for all of the updates. And don't forget, you can also contact us with questions for the podcast through those same channels, and also email talkingawaypodcast@gmail.com. That's talkingawaypodcast@gmail.com. In the meantime, many thanks to James Whitham, Josh Close and James Toseland. Have a great weekend, everybody, and speak to you on the next show. That's the Motorbike Racing Show next Thursday. Thank you for listening to the first ever episode of the Motorbike Racing Show, part of Talking Away with Greg Haines, on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all of your other favourite podcast suppliers. to contact the show, send a message through social media. Greg Haines TV on X, formerly known as Twitter, and Instagram, or email talkingawaypodcast@gmail.com.